Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Brandon, make the video text of J.K. Rowling. President Paul's a member of the Harvard Corporation and the board of officers member of the faculty, proud parents, and above all graduates. The first thing I would like to say is thank you. Not only has Harvard given me an extraordinary honor, but the weeks of fear and nausea I have endured and the thought of giving this commencement address have made me lose weight. A win-win situation. Now all I have to do is take deep breaths, sequence at the red banners, and convince myself that I am the word raised a Gryffindor's reunion. Delivering a commencement address is a great responsibility, or so I thought until I cast my mind back to my own graduation. The commencement speaker today was the distinguished British philosopher Baroness Mary Warnock. Reflecting on her speech has helped me enormously in writing this one, because it turned out that I can't remember a single word she said. This liberating discovery enabled me to proceed without any fear that I might inadvertently influence you to abandon promising career in business, the law, or politics for the giddy. Delight of becoming a gay wizard. You see, if all you remember in years to come is the gay wizard joke, I've come out ahead of Baroness Mary Warnock. Achievable goals, the first step to self-improvement. Actually, I have racked my mind and heart for what I ought to say to you today. I have asked myself what I wish I had known at my own graduation, and what important lesson I have learned in the 20 years that have expired between the day and this. I have come up with to answer on this wonderful day when we wish gather together to celebrate your academic success. I have decided to talk to you about the benefit of failure. As you stand out the threshold of what is sometimes called real life, I want to extol the crucial importance of imagination. This may seem quixotic or paradoxical choice, but please bear with me. Looking back at the 20 years old that I was at graduation is a slightly uncomfortable experience for 2 years old that she has become half my lifetime ago. I was striking an uneasy balance between the ambition I had for myself and want to disclose to my expected of me. I was convinced that the only thing I want to do ever was to write novels. However, my parents, both of whom came from impoverished background, and neither of my whom had been to college, to the view that my overactive imagination was an amusing personal quirk that would never pay mortgage or secure a pension. I know that the irony strike with the force and cartons until now, so they hope that I would take a vocational degree. I want to study English literature. A compromise was reached that in retrospect satisfied nobody, and I went up to study modern language. Hardly had my parent car rounded the corner at the end of the road that I ditched German and scuttled off down of classic auditors. I cannot remember telling my parents that I was studying classics. They might well have found out for the first time on graduation day. Of all the subjects on this planet, I think they would have been hard put to come to name one less useful than Greek mythology when I came the securing decade to an executive bathroom. I would like to make it clear in parentheses that I do not blame my parents for their point of view. There is an expired date on blaming your parents for steering you in the wrong direction. The moment you are old enough to take the real responsibility lies with you. What is more, in cannot critics my parents for hoping that I would never experience property. They had been poor themselves, and I have since been poor, and I quite agree with them that it is not an ennobling experience. Poverty, entire fear and stress, and sometimes depression, it's meant 1,000 petty humiliation and hardship climbing out of poverty by your own efforts. That is indeed something on which to pride yourself, but poverty itself is romantic seat only by false. What I fear most for myself at your age was not poverty by failure. At your age, in spite of a distinct lack of motivation at university, where I had spent far too long in the coffee bar writing story and far too little time a lecture, I had a knack for passing examination, and that for years had been the measure of success in my life, and that of my peers. I am not dull enough to suppose that because you are young, gifted, and well educated, you have never known hardship or heartbreaks. Talent and intelligence never yet included anyone again to caprice of the fates, and I do not for a moment suppose that everyone here has enjoyed an existence on unraveled privilege and contentment. However, the fact that you are graduating from Harvard suggests that you are not very well acquainted with failure. You might be driven by a failure quite as much as a desire for success, and that your conception of failure might not be too far from the average person's idea of success. So I have me already blown. Ultimately, we all have to decide for ourselves what constitutes failure, but the world is quite eager to give you a set of criteria if you let it. So I think it's fair to say that by any conventional measure, a mere 7 years after my graduation day, I had failed on an epic scale, an exceptionally short-lived marriage and imploded, and I was jobless and lone parent, and as poor as it is possible to in the modern Britain without being homeless. The fears that my parents had for me, and that I had for myself, had both come to pass, and by every usual standard, I was the biggest failure I knew. No, I'm not going to stand here and tell you the failure is fun. That period of my life was a dark one, and I had no idea that there was going to be what the phrase has since represented as skin affairs tell resolution. I had no idea then how far the tunnel extended, and for a long time any light at the end of it was a hope rather than a reality. So why do I talk about the benefits of failure? Simply because failure meant a striping away on the inessential. I stopped pretending to myself that I was anything other than what I was, and began to direct all of energy into finishing to only work to that matter to me. I had really succeeded in anything else, I might never have found the determination to succeed in the one arena I believe I truly belonged. I was set free because my great spirit had been released and I was still alive, and I still had a daughter whom I adored and had an old typewriter and a big idea, and so rock bottom became to the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. You might never fail on the scale indeed, but some failure in life is inevitable. It is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so consciously that you might as well not live at all, in which case you fail by default. Failure gave me an inner security that I had never attained. By passing examination, failure taught me things about myself that I could have learned no other way. I discovered that I had a strong will and more discipline than I had suspected. I also found out that I had friends whose value was truly above the price of rubbish. The knowledge that you have emerged wiser and stronger from setbacks means that the knowledge that you have emerged wiser and stronger from setback means that you are ever after secure in your ability to survive. You will never truly know yourself or the strength of your relationship until both have been tested by adversity. Such knowledge is a true gift for all that is painfully won, and it has been worth more than any qualification I ever earned. So, given a time turner, I would tell my 20 years old self that personal happiness lies in knowing that life is not a checklist of acquisition or achievement. Your qualification, your GP are not your life. So you will meet many people of many age and older who confuse the two. The two life is difficult and complicated and beyond anyone's total control, and humility to know that will enable you to survive its vicissitude. Now you might think that I just might second then the importance of imagination because of the part it played in rebuilding my life, but it is not wholly so. So I personally will defend the value of bedtime stories to my last guest. I have learned to value imagination in a much broader sense. Imagination is not only too uniquely a human capacity to envision that which is not, and therefore the pound of all invention and innovation in its arguably most transformative and revelatory capacity. It is the power that enables us to empathize with human worst experiences. We have never shared one of the great formative experiences of my life preceded Harry Potter. So it informed much of what I am subsequently worked in those books. This revelation came in the form one of my earlier day jobs that I was lopping up to write story during my lunch hours. I paid the rent in my early 20s by working at the Africans Research Department at Amnesty International headquarters in London. There in my little office in read hastily, scribbly, a little smuggled out of totalitarian regimes by men and women who were risking imprisonment to inform the outside world of what was happening to them. I was photographs of those who had disappeared without trace, sent to amnesty by their disparate families and friends. I read the testimony of torture victims and saw pictures of their injuries. I opened handwritten eyewitness account of summary trials and executions of kidnappings and rapes. Many of my co-workers were ex-political prisoners, people who had been displaced from their homes or fled into exile because they had the temerity to speak against their governments. Visitors to our office included those who had come to give information or to try and find out what had happened to those they had left behind. I shall never forget the African torture victim, a young man no older than I was at the time, who had become mentally ill after all hell endured in his homeland. He trembled uncontrollably as he spoke into a video camera about the brutality inflicted upon him. He was a foot taller than I was and seemed as fragile as a child. I was given to the job escorting him back to the underground station afterwards, and his man was live and been stirred by greatly took my hand with ecclesiastical courtesy and wishes me future happiness. And as long as I shall remember walking along an empty corridor and suddenly hearing from behind a closed door a scream of pain and horror such as I have never heard since. The door opened and the reservoir poked out her head and told me to run and make me a hot drink for the young man sitting with her. She had just had to give him the news that is retaliation for his own outspokenness against his country's regime. His mother had been seized and executed. Every day of my working week in my early 20s, I was reminded how incredibly fortunate I was to live in a country with democratically elected government where legal representation and a public trial were the right of everyone. Every day I saw more about the apple humankind will inflict of their fellow human to gain or maintain power. I begin to have nightmares, literal nightmares, about some of the things I saw here and read. And yet, I also learned more about human goodness at Amnesty International than I had ever known before. Amnesty mobilizes thousands of people who have never been tortured or imprisoned for their beliefs to act on behalf of those who have the power of human empathy, leading to collective action saves lives and prisoners, ordinary people whose personal well-being and security are assured joined together in hug numbers. Number two, save people they do not know and will never meet. My small participation in this process was one of the most humbling and inspiring experience of my life. Unlike any other creature on this planet, human and learn and understand without having experienced. They can think themselves into other people's place. Of course, this is a power like me brand of fictional magic. This morally neutral one might use, such as an ability to manipulate it or control just as much as to understand or sympathize. And many prefer not to exercise their imagination at all. They choose to remain comfortable within the blunt of their own experience, never troubling to wonder how it would feel to have been born older than they are. They can refuse to hear screams or to fear inside the cages. They cannot close their mind and heart, and many suffering that does not touch them personally, they can refuse to know. I might be tempted to envy people who can live that way, except that I do not think they have any power nightmares than I do. Choosing to live in narrow space leads to a form mental agoraphobia, and that brings its own terrors. I think they will fully unimaginative see more monsters. They are often more afraid. What is more, those who choose not empathize in never real monster, for without ever communicating an act of outright appeal ourselves and occlude with its truth or our apathy. One of the many things I learned at the ends of the classic corridor down, which is I ventured at the age of 18 in search of something I could not then define, was this written by Greek author Plutarch: what we achieve inwardly we change outer reality. That is an astonishing statement, and yet proven 1,000 times every day of our lives in expresses in part or inescapable connection with the outside world, the facts that we touch other people's lives simply by existing. But how much more are you, Harvard graduate of 2008, likely to touch other people's lives, your intelligence, your capacity for hard work, the education you have earned and received, given your unique status and unique responsibilities, even your nationality, set your path. The great majority of you belong to the world, only remaining superpower, the way you vote, the way you live, the way you protest and pressure you bring to bear on your government, has an impact way beyond your border. That is your privilege and your burden. If you choose to use your status and influence to raise your voice on help those who have no voice, if you choose to identify not only with the powerful but with the powerless, if you retain the ability to imagine yourself into the lips of those who do not have your advantage, then it will not only your proud families who celebrate your existence, but thousands and millions of people whose reality you have helped change. We do not need magic to change the world. We carry all the power we need inside ourselves. Already we have the power to imagine better. I am nearly finished. I have one last hope for you, which is something that I already had 21. The friends with whom I said on graduation day have been my friend for life. They are my children's godparents. The people who have been able to turn times of trouble, people who have been kind enough not to sue when I took their names of that others at our graduation. We were bound and the most affection by our sad experiences. A time called never come again, and of course by the knowledge that we held certain photographic evidence that will be exceptionally valuable if any of us ran for Prime Minister. So today I wish you nothing better than familiar friendship, and tomorrow I hope that even if you remember not single word of mine, you remember those of Seneca, another of those old romance I met when I played down the classic corridor. It's rich from curry letters in search of ancient wisdom. As is a tale, so life not how long is but good it is what matters. I wish you all very good sleeps. Thank you very much.